Hi friends. So I'm down in the wool cave and I watched a YouTube video of Jillian Evie I think her name is, and I've watched her quite a few times and I really feel like she's pretty accomplished and knows a lot. So she did something with a locks, made a art yarn that I was inspired to try with some wool I got from a ewe that had fairly short fleece but real curly tips, and I thought it might be fun to take it, tease it out a little by hand, and then spin it and see if I get an art yarn with like little curly cute tips coming out and stuff. And then I'm gonna, if it works out, I'll make it into a hat. I think I'm gonna do 2-ply because I don't know very much about art yarn and I've never done just a single. And so that's what I'm going to do now and try it for the first time with you guys here with me. Before I get started on that, I do just want to say, I don't think I've had a chance to do this for a while, but I just want to say I hope everybody's doing good, and thank you so much for stopping by and for making the comments that you do. Really love to get your feedback and perspective. Learned a lot of stuff from everybody and really great ideas. For example, covering my Wi-Fi extender in the barn. So we went ahead and did that based on somebody's suggestion. So I really appreciate that. Things I just don't think to do or whatever. And so going to have a next month is going to be fairly busy. April 18th my shearer comes. April 1st I'm going to start ruing because hopefully it'll be warm enough. And then once I get all the fleeces sheared and rued and evaluated and graded, then I'll be putting them up on the website, softshetlandwool.com, and I'll send a notification out to anybody who has subscribed to my website. And so that's how you'll know that the fleeces are available for sale for you to purchase. Then we start lambing April 25th, and my plans are to put the Good of Work on hiatus. So the actual, 45-minute to an hour vlog I launch on Sunday nights. Take a break from that during the lambing period and try to do just like daily updates, get some footage of, new lambs from the day before, and then playful lambs, which is always really fun. And, just sort of do like a shorter daily update of how lambing is going. And then once that's done, we'll pick up the Good of Work again. So that, like I said, lambing technically our first day, worst case scenario, I guess, I shouldn't say worst case, best case scenario, our first day is April 25th, and we might get some early birds there because you never can really predict it. Or we can't anyway, we don't put the effort into doing sonograms and stuff like that, so we just use the gestation period. So that's, just wanted to give you those little updates and stuff. And still doing the live feeds. I love to do that. So I'm doing those on Fridays on Facebook. I'm going to start posting them as events, so if you're on my page anytime before the Friday, you'll see the day and the time, and I'm thinking there's a link there, and you probably get alerts or something. I don't really know. I've never signed up to an event. But and the other thing I'm going to make a change is after next Friday, I'm going to start running them at noon, because I think there's a few people that participate in them that have a hard time with the scheduling, with meetings at work and stuff. So I'm going to do it at the noon hour for 30 minutes or so, just hanging out with the girls in the barn. So that's some stuff that's going on. I think that's pretty much everything. Yeah. So again, thanks for stopping in and checking out what's going on at the farm. And like I said before, I really, really appreciate your comments and stuff. And I hope everybody's doing well and are happy and, get some value and benefit from these videos, because I just really appreciate you guys and everybody's support. So the first thing she did in the video was opened up all of her locks. And so I'm going to just do that on this handful of wool here. Just kind of floof up the ends. If I do it really gently, the tips will stay closed, like this here. And so I don't know, I'm hoping that might show up as like a cute little fringy thing or whatever. Just opening it up so that I can draft. Okay. So this is wool from Marianne. It's actually the same wool I used on my lace experiment because it is very, very fine. And the short staple length I didn't think would be a problem for the lace. So a couple things. One thing is, remember I learned with the Magic Craft, they're balanced with the flyer hook always being on the right bar. So that's what I do now. From now on, it's on the right hand side. I'm just going clockwise. And also I'm using the Delta flyer for this. I don't have an Aura hybrid flyer for myself right now. And that probably would be a good idea to use that because it's got a really large orifice and a large hook. But I think this is going to be good enough for what I'm doing here, which Delta Flyer's got this real open orifice here and then open hooks. I'm going to bet this is maybe a 10 millimeter hook. Can't really say for sure. Actually, though, I think I am going to reverse it. This is not a Magic Craft hook. I got this kind of off-brand, which probably should switch all my stuff now to the Magic Craft, but I always like the fact that the Delta Flyer is so easy to. Nope, it's not gonna work. Okay, so we're gonna set it up here. I've always really liked how the Delta Flyer is so easy to load. Alright, so like I said, she did tell me in the video, because she was talking just specifically to me, of course, is to make the tension fairly high, because you want to have a real strong pull. And that is really high, so I'm going to loosen it up a little bit. I might tighten it up once I get going. So this is wool from Marianne, it's the same wool actually I used for the lace experiment. It's just really soft. I've had this sitting in a basket. It's nothing really I'm comfortable selling because it is so short. And so it's been sitting in the basket, and these last few bits here are so short that I'm just like, there's no way I'd be interested in flicking these. But I'm already incredibly digging this. Alright, this is definitely a win. How cool that is. And yes, the little tips are sort of sticking out. Oh my gosh, this is really fun. It's super cute. And I just feel like I'm drafting like a big old slob, right? I'm not being careful at all. There's big blobs. And I'm trying to keep it loosey-goosey, so that the tips do stick out whenever possible. So I guess the only other thing I gotta figure out is, am I gonna ply this or use it as a single? So any art yarn viewers, I could use some advice right now, because I'll be working this. Actually, this will probably fill up the bobbin awfully fast because it's really thick. So would you leave this as a single or would you ply it? Inquiring minds. I do see the value and the benefit of opening up the fibers before spinning it. It's just drafting that much better. This is really liberating to not have to be as careful. Yeah, one thing about the Delta Flyer, it does not do well with spinning off to the side. You really need to spin straight on. Alright, I somehow got a little piece of in here. I don't need that. I'm pretty comfortable with the tension, so I don't need my handy dandy pliers. Keep forgetting not to go to the side. like this a lot. It's really fun. And I think it's going to stay together pretty nicely. I'm going to make a whole hat. She just did like a trim. She did the brim of a hat and just the wrist trim on a pair of fingerless mitts. It was really cute. But I think I'm going to try and make a whole hat. So I'm going to have to take the lesson I got from Kim at Fairly Fiber Fun on how to calculate my gauge, but I think I'll be able to do it. Oops, I got a little too straight and even. I think I might be able to calculate that myself this time. I'll post a link to her episode where she does this. She used like long wools, like, you know, Wensleydale and Teeswater, and I think that's the two that she used. So a little bit of a different, mine is a little different since mine is real fine and the locks are a lot shorter. Do I just let that go? Tighten it up a little bit. Big glob of curly bits. I actually use these for making my lambs and stuff too. This is my thing, I don't know if you guys do this. When I let a blob go that's real loose like this and I want to tighten it up, I find if I go right close to the orifice and just hold my finger there, it tightens it up a little bit. That was sort of like just learning by trying it out one time. Okay, so I'm just going to keep working on that. I'm going to fill up one bobbin, and I probably won't, maybe I will, but I doubt that I'll have that done by Sunday. I got a lot of other stuff to do on the farm to get ready for lambing and whatnot. So, yeah, my art yarn viewers, if you could just let me know, would you just knit it up as a single like this? Give me a second. Or would you ply it? So, that was the other thing that she did that was different. Her locks were dyed, so there was a lot more color interest, but I don't dye, so just go with it like this. Be a pretty creamy colored hat. Okay, so record keeping. I got a question from one of my viewers about how I keep records for all the different stuff that's going on the farm. So I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you for the question. A lot of the times the questions you ask inspire segments, and this segment is about record keeping. So I have a bunch of different places and tools I use. I'm big on Google. I used to work in Excel, Microsoft software when I was an office worker. I get you a good shot of the girls here. And the Google free stuff, there's Google Docs, there's Google Sheets. So I use the Google Sheets for any of my spreadsheets, and then I use Google Docs for, you know, anything that's more prose. So a couple of the spreadsheets I maintain, one is, it's a Google spreadsheets file, and in that I list all the sheep names and all their data, and I'll take you through that. But that's my home base file that I use, and I will make printouts for that depending on what's going on. So for example, today we're doing CDT shots on the bread ewes, and from my Google Sheets I hid the columns I don't need, included the columns I do need. So I have this really handy chart to keep track of who we've given the shot to make sure that we've hit all the bread ewes, which there's 36 of them. I was thinking there was 33, but I forgot about the 3 ads that we brought in at the end of the fall last year. So that's the main one. The other main document I keep in the Google is the activity diary, and I'll show you that. And in that I just write anything that happened that day. So the entry for today will be, did CDT shots on 36 ewes. I use the Google applications so I don't spend the money on the Microsoft suite of applications for spreadsheets and documents. And I used to be pretty extensively just working in Excel where I used to work. But this Google Sheets works perfectly adequately for what I need. You access it by clicking the Apps button for Google. I'm in Google Chrome right now. And it's called Sheets. And when you open it up, it takes you to the list of all of your spreadsheets that you've created. And it's all browser based, so this is all saved up in the cloud. None of this stuff is resident on my laptop. But this is the spreadsheet that I keep running all year for the flock. And you can see on the bottom, I use the tabs. So every January 1st, I'll create a new, I just call it price list just because that's what I used to use this for. So 2021 is the flock as of January 1st. So anything that I sold or has left the flock in 2020 does not get included in the 2021 price list. So the 2020 price list has all the sheep that were actively in the flock or that left the flock in 2020. So I've got a bunch of different columns. They're always the same from one spreadsheet to the other. I do have a couple other tabs I throw in here just every so often for doing data, where I'll take a copy of the price list and then use it for other purposes. So the first column is status, and I use a few key codes to kind of give you a status depending on where I am in the year. I'm going to create a filter right now, and this way I can show you what my different status codes are. So I have one for died, so I've had a couple sheep die this year already. One for keep. I record whose lambs maybe is sheep that I'm thinking about maybe selling. NH is the nursing home set that will stay here unless I find a home for them with somebody that wants older ewes. OH no is oh heck no. So those are the ones that I'm really not interested at all in moving to another farm. And then sold are those that have been sold. And so I use this column just to once in a while filter on that for different reasons. And then I have the name of the sheep in the next column, and I've got colors here. I don't know, I was doing something at some point where it helped me to filter on color, because you can do that. Sort by color and filter by color. I don't even remember what I was using those for. Then I put the birth date, and then I put the birth year. Sometimes I just need to know the year. What I paid for the sheep, if I bought them from somebody. Their registration number, and then the name of the dam. The dam's registration number, the name of the sire's registration number. Just added these 4 columns for setting up breeding groups. I don't really use them that often, so I'm going to hide those. Phenotype, I was doing that for a while. I kind of got off of it. As you can see, most of those fields are blank. The sex, whether it's a ewe or a ram, so there are times when I need to do work on either rams or ewes, so it's good to filter on those to have them isolated. Their color, what their base color is. Then also the ear tag color. So I've started doing different color ear tags each year, and that helps us to keep track of the sheep. The number on the ear tag, this is probably the most critical column, because when you administer meds and stuff, we create checklists with the ear tag numbers, and we always check that to make sure that we haven't double dosed somebody, which is never good. The age, which is a date math calculation, and you can just Google that to figure out how to do that, but it tells you this column I use based on the birth date to tell me how old the ewe is or ram is exactly. Features, so this is what I've registered them as. We don't get too deep into,
some of the more unique patterns. Pretty much if it's a catmugget, a gullmugget, solid, yuglet, smerslet, and anything else I just call it spotted. So that's the spreadsheet, and like I said, you know, I sort this and I use this in a lot of different ways for all year. I practically have this open every day looking at something. The other thing that's nice about the Google platform is I have it, if I'm in the barn with just my cell phone, I can actually quickly open up this spreadsheet and figure out who somebody is or who their sire or dam is or whatever. There's another spreadsheet in here that I create that I've done every year. Here, I'll pull up this one. It's 2019 fleece records. So this is where I keep track of the actual fleeces that I get from the sheep each year. And on this record, I keep track of things like what the full weight was, what the skirted weight was, you know, what I'm charging for that particular fleece. And then I have a little filter here. These are ones I'm going to sell, process, show. I forget what my other filters are. And then I also put in here the AFD data. So it's just a really good record. I have it. I don't, you know, really. That I only use, you know, during the time that I have active fleeces, which isn't that long. Usually it's just, you know, spring through to the end of the summer. All right, so that's the sheep business spreadsheet that I keep on the computer. The other file that I use, and that also is in the Google platform, and this time I'm going to open it up as a document, so they have it's like Microsoft Word. Same thing, it opens up to this, the way I've got it laid out. Now I call it activity diary. And, you know, you can call it whatever you want. And I always tap Control N to get to the bottom of the table. So pretty much anything I do, I will record here. So today is the 27th. Did CDTs on all bred ewes, 36 total. Even if something is really inconsequential, like if I've changed their feed here, I talk about where I started giving them 1.5 bales in the morning and 1 bale at night. Camera installation, you know, it's just, the one thing is you never know when you're going to need to know when you did something. You know, we'll be a year out and we're like, when did we put those cameras in? How old are they? So this it's all really helpful. So those are 2 records. Now the other ones I have are more paper copies of stuff. And so I'm going to show you that as well. From a record keeping standpoint. Okay, record keeping. So I was asked, how do I keep track of all the data as it relates to the farm, the flock, and keeping track of the animals. So I do have a system. I have quite a few different places where I keep data for different reasons in different formats. So I showed you the stuff I have on Google. 2 things I did want to make sure was clear on that. One is you do have to have a reliable internet source so that you can access the data, you know, quickly and whenever you need it. And the second thing is that they auto save. So that's the one difference between Google and Excel. Whereas Excel, you save when you're ready. Google will save every time you do a change. So just be aware of that. So the first thing I want to show you as it relates to how I keep track of the sheep is my cards. So I have an index card for every sheep in the flock, and I keep them in this kind of nifty cool box I got from a friend of mine that she's in China. She lives in China, and she gave me a scarf, and I just thought the box was really cool, so I keep my cards in there. So I have a card for every sheep, ram and ewe, in the flock, index cards, and they're all formatted the same, so they're easy for me to use as a reference tool. So I'll just pull out one card that I like. It's got some good data on it. Here's Ivy. Every card is exactly the same. So the name of the sheep is up in this corner. Then I have a color coding system for the color of the sheep. So my grays, I use a blue magic marker, so that way when they're laid out in front of me, I can easily see. It's just a good visual aid. The ear tag number. And then going down in each row, and again, like I said, every card has the same exact format. You know, this is Isabel and she's a Morit. There's her ear tag. Just because it makes it easier, your eye knows exactly where to go to. So on the card is the year the sheep was born, then written out what their color is, whether they're a ewe or a ram, who their dam is, who their sire is, and then on some of them I was putting spinning fineness, but I changed that. Now I put the spinning fineness over here, and I start it, their first year we get micron data, and each subsequent year goes up one more row on the card. And that I use spinning fineness, as we learned from Rich. Spinning fineness is the one number that kind of gives you a good reference to compare. And so that's what I keep on this card, just to keep it simple. And I use these for a lot of different things. I use them to set up breeding groups. I think I did a video on that a while ago, back in the fall when we were setting them up. The next time I'm going to use these is when we start thinking about which sheep are going to be moving on to other farms, which is a very difficult job for us. But yeah, we'll lay these out on the table and we'll kind of rank them and, you know, use a ton of data for that decision, but the cards really help as a visual. So during those times when the cards are actively being used, they'll usually be like sorted up into little piles, you know, with rubber bands on them, depending on what we're using them for. And it's just really nice to have the ability to sort of move them around, kind of like chess pieces in a way. You know, you just have that ability to handle them and compare. All right, so that's my active flock. This sits right next to my desk. I'm right by my computer. I refer to these quite frequently. My box O sheep. Once a sheep has left the farm, they go in this pile. And I'll thin this out once in a while when something becomes irrelevant, just to keep it from becoming too unwieldy. I don't really go back and look at this that much. It's kind of an interesting reminder of some of the stuff that you've had on the farm and regrets. There's not very few sheep here that I wanted to part with. Yeah. So if you have a small flock, you could keep it around. It's not hurting anything. It's small. Okay, so the next thing I have for my record keeping. So this is a file box, plastic banker's box, and in this file cabinet is where I keep each sheep's folder. So all the active sheep in our flock have a folder, and the folders are separated out with Pendifex files based on the year that the sheep was born. So if I purchase a sheep, I put it in here based on the year they were born, not when I purchased them. And every folder has the name of the sheep, the year they were born, and their ear tag number, which I can then cross-reference to my index cards and also to my my Google Sheets. I don't use Excel. So I sort the folders by ear tag number just to make it easier to get to them if I'm looking for a sheep in here. So I'm going to pull out a sheep that's a little bit more seasoned in the flock so that you can sort of see what data and records I'm keeping on my active sheep. This is Eleanor. Lovely gray cat mugget Eleanor. All right, so the first layer of stuff are the fiber samples. So these are the samples that we sent into Texas A&M. And fortunately, I wrote the year on there because you can see now I've got a lot of samples from Eleanor. Eleanor was born what year? 2015. So I'm up to 6 samples now. Nice to have them keep track from one year to the next. Also in her folder is her registration pedigree. I feel like I've done this before, but that's okay. Another couple samples in here. This is a new thing, just started a couple years ago. When I'm skirting the fleeces, I evaluate them. So I'm evaluating stuff like, do I want to sell this as a raw fleece? Do I want to process it myself? Am I going to put this in the comb top pooled wool? All of those decisions are made easier by very careful and systematic collection of data and then organizing it on a sheet so that once again, I'm so used to this sheet now that I know my eye knows where to go to find a piece of information that I need. So on here I've got stuff like, I know I did a piece on this before, but I'll just repeat. I put stuff like how old the ewe was when she was sheared, all of her micron data. I take a photo and I put that somewhere else. I actually use Google Photos and keep a file for each sheep. So I can go in there and look at their photographs whenever I want, but I put a little check mark to say, yep, I took their picture. I'm a big checklist person because I'm kind of scatterbrained, so if I don't have a checklist, I'll forget to do things. Pre-skirted weight, so I take the fleece. It doesn't have the belly wool in it. The belly wool, we kind of pull that out right at shearing, but it has all the other wool. So I have here what the fleece was before I skirted it, and then what the weight was after I skirted it, and then I make a comment about the quality of the shearing or whether I root it. I'll note that here. And then my decision, and then I put what I'm going to sell the fleece for if I decide I want to sell it, and then I just take a small sample of the fleece and put it on the sheet, and I have that from one year to the next. And this is probably why when you open up this folder, it just has this lovely fragrant aroma, which I just love. And there's another sample of Eleanor. I took a big sample here. I wonder if I went through all the samples I've collected and processed those, what a cool self-striping yarn I would end up with or something. All right, so that's the hard copy folders, and I'm going to put this back in here in order so that the next time I want to refer to somebody, I have it all nice and straight. Okay, so those are the sheep that are on the flock, in the flock. They're here today. If a sheep gets moved to another farm, or whatever, for whatever reason is no longer here, then I keep these banker's boxes, and in here is organized by year, and then each folder is the disposition of it. If it's a person that I sold it to, if I took them to auction, if they died, you know, so I'll keep those in separate folders for each year. And if it is a situation where I sold the sheep, oops, I've got it facing the wrong way. If I'm in the situation where I actually sold the sheep, in that folder will be the contract that we made with the person that bought the sheep from us. And just so the folder has the person's name. I have written in that Google Sheets, if I sold the sheep, there's a column for who bought them. And so that way I can cross-reference and find them based on the year if I ever need to look back for whatever reason. So I have an example of how I used this quite recently. So what happened was I got a phone call from the police department down in New Jersey. I can't remember what city, doesn't matter. And they notified me that they had one of my sheep at their facility. And I'm like, what do you mean? How's that possible? Because all my sheep are here. So my ear tag has the Whispering Pines, the farm name, on the ear tag. And they were able to track me down because I'm on Google, on the internet. You can find me pretty easily. So they tracked me down and said, there's this sheep here with your ear tag on it. And I said, okay, what's the number on the tag? So they gave me the number, and within 3 minutes, they were still on the phone with me. I was able to go into my sheep spreadsheet, do Control F through the whole workbook of all the tabs, found the sheep that was associated with the ear tag, and then the column where the person who I sold her to, went down to my box for that year, found the guy, pulled out his contract, and there I had his contact information, which I gave to the police, I think. Oh, no, I called the guy, and I said, the police have got your sheep. And so he went and got her, and everything worked out great. But just an example of how I use the information to move something forward, make progress there. So that's my, some of the basics of my data collection and organization. There's probably other things I do if I think of them, and I'll talk about it later on or something. But hopefully that gives you some ideas, those of you that have a flock or are thinking about starting a flock, how to organize your information. One thing I will recommend so highly is the index cards. They're really great, and I didn't start doing those until maybe 10 years ago. And I would say that'd be, if you're not going to do anything else, get yourself a set of index cards for each year sheet. Hope that helps. Thanks.